So today, this happens to be in the cycle of our church year, we are beginning a worship and stewardship series titled Enough. Enough. Discovering joy through simplicity and generosity. It is based on a book of that same title by Adam Hamilton. And over the next 5 weeks, we will examine some of the financial challenges that face us as individuals and as a nation. We'll look at our own spending, our own giving, and explore some biblical principles related to financial management. We'll also learn about ways that we can assess our own individual financial situation and help us develop a plan that allows us to experience joy and simplicity in our lives. On November 5th, each of us will have an opportunity to then make a commitment to this church and to its ministries in the coming year. So I want to say at the outset, if you are a guest here, we simply ask that you engage with the material. There's no obligation here. Whatever your beliefs, we know that the Bible is full of financial content that works regardless of what your faith might be. And here at Lakewood United Methodist Church, this is the time of year when we as a congregation take a look at our own finances, and we try to determine how we can best align our own personal budgets with the vision of the church that we believe has its heart out in the community, here in the Lakewood community, and impacting our community for the glory of God. I just wanted to say all of that as a bit of a disclaimer for those who are guests with us today. About 20 years ago, the Royal Bank of Scotland sent an offer for a gold MasterCard to Monty Slater. The card came with a $20,000 credit limit. Can you imagine that? Which was quite impressive, being that this was Monty's first credit card. It was particularly impressive when you consider that Monty was a Shih Tzu dog. Raymond, who was Monty's owner, thought about using the card for some of Monty's favorite treats and such, but he reconsidered, knowing that Monty didn't really have the means to pay when the statement would come. Now, this story is true. It comes from the British Broadcasting Network. It happened in July of 2003, and it might be funny to us, really, but it presents a sobering truth for us. We live in a culture that encourages us to live beyond our means. We live in a culture that encourages us to live beyond our means. Everything and everyone around us tell us that we can have it now and then pay for it later, as opposed to saving and being good stewards of all of the resources that God has entrusted to us. All of us, myself included, yes, are caught in this struggle in one way or another. It's our human nature. It is our human nature to want stuff, right? To want stuff, to want the latest gadget or technology, to want the most recent model vehicles. We want the latest fashion trends when we have a whole closet full of clothes already. It's how we operate. It's how our culture pushes us to operate. Our human condition makes us want what we think others have. Makes us want what others have and what we think others have. And so as we consider these things over the next few weeks, I want to make something very clear at the outset. We have to be very careful not to judge other people in this respect. Each of us is in a position only to judge our own selves and our own situations. We know our own situations. We don't know others' situations, even if we think we do. None of us is in a position to pass judgment on anyone else. So this series is designed for us to focus on how God may be speaking to us individually, rather than passing judgment on others. But before we can consider some solutions to help us with this human condition of ours, this condition that causes us to want more and more, I think we really have to understand the problem first. We need to understand the problem in order to understand the solution. So let's consider first the American dream. The American dream. For most of us, the American dream has to do with a desire for achieving success, right? We want to live the American dream, have success in our lives, taking advantage of those opportunities that are before us, living a good life and having all of our needs and our wants met. That American dream drives us. It's a driver. It drives us to pursue those things that we don't have. And that can be a good thing, but sometimes not. It can drive us to gain more in order to be successful. And we then tend to measure our success by all the stuff that we have. That love of money, or the love of those things that money can buy, are generally those motives behind the American dream. We want to consume, we want to acquire, we want to buy our way to happiness. And we want those things that we can buy right now. Adam Hamilton says that the American dream has really become the American nightmare. And it's owed to two distinct yet related illnesses that affect us socially, that affect us spiritually. He calls these two illnesses affluenza and credititis. Affluenza and credititis. Affluenza is that constant need to want bigger and more and bigger and better, as well as that effect that it has on us. And if we're honest, all of us have struggled with this desire to acquire at some point or another in our lives. It's no secret that shopping has become one of America's favorite pastimes. And with online and app options, it's easier than ever to shop. You don't even have to leave the house, right? The items come right to you, right to your door, sometimes even on the same day. They're there. And our economy is dependent on consumer spending. Every day, the news reports the impact of our consumer spending on the stock market and on our retirement funds. We're all looking at that, right? We're even told that the strength of our nation is dependent on our spending. Think about it. During the pandemic, we were issued stimulus checks, right? To encourage us to spend and to stimulate the economy. And while there is some logic to that, it just fuels that illness that's inside us, that desire for more. And yet we don't even have room for all the stuff that we already have. According to the National Home Builders Association, the average American home went from 1,660 square feet in 1973 to over 2,700 square feet in 2016. And according to statisticbrain.com, today there is an estimated 2.3 billion square feet of self-storage space in America. 2.3 billion square feet of self-storage place. An entire market has been developed for storing all of that stuff that we have been enticed to buy, often with money that we don't actually even have. Which brings us to that second disease that goes along with the affluenza. It's credititis. Credititis. Credititis is the opportunity to buy now and pay later. We can enjoy anything that we want right now and then just pay for it later. And this feeds our desire for instant gratification. Our economy today is built on the concept of credititis, and unfortunately, it has exploited our lack of self-discipline, and it's allowed us to feed that affluenza, wreaking havoc on personal lives, personal finances, on our national finances. Statistics found on nerdwallet.com note that in 1990, the average credit card debt in America was about $3,000. Today, it's nearly $17,000. And our cashless culture has fueled this. When we go to a store, the average transaction is about 125% higher if we use a credit card or some kind of app to pay for it on our phone. Because it just doesn't hurt our pocket as much when we use a credit card or we use Apple Pay to pay for something instead of cash. And this credititis isn't just limited to credit cards and our spending through apps. It also extends out to car loans. It extends out to mortgages and other types of loans that we might have. The life of an average car loan. How many of you remember when the life of an average car loan was about 3 years? Now it has extended to 6 or 7 years to pay for a vehicle. The length of mortgages used to be 15 or 30-year mortgages. Now there's 40 years and sometimes even more on a mortgage. All of this while our American savings rate has declined. This is a problem. It's a problem in our nation, right? And it's a problem for us individually. And I believe that both affluenza and credititis are really spiritual issues. They're really a spiritual issue. Our souls were created in the image of God. Our souls were created for a need of God, but it's been distorted. We were created to desire God, but we have turned that desire into possessions. We were meant to find our security in God, but we find security in amassing wealth. We were meant to enjoy those simple pleasures in our lives, but we busy ourselves pursuing money and all of our stuff. We were meant to be generous, to share with other people in need, but instead we hoard those resources for ourselves because we're not sure when we might need them. All of us have an inclination toward this. And the truth of the matter is, it separates us from God. It separates us from God. In the Gospel of John, Jesus says, The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I come that they may have life and have it abundantly. The devil doesn't have to come and tempt us to do drugs or to steal or to go out and have some kind of extramarital affair. All the devil needs to do is to convince us to keep pursuing that American dream, to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, to borrow against our futures, to enjoy more than we can afford and indulge ourselves. And by doing that, the devil will rob us of our joy, make us slaves, really, and keep us from doing God's will. In our gospel lesson today, we heard the words of Jesus where he says, "For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life?" And the Apostle Paul said it well in his first letter to Timothy that we heard earlier when Barb read today, that the love of money, not money, money itself is neutral, but the love of money is the root of evil. And some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So what is the solution to this problem, to this spiritual problem? Well, we need a heart change. We need a change of heart. Although we have a change of heart, a heart change when we accept Jesus Christ as our Savior, in a sense, we all need a heart change each and every day of our lives. Each morning when we get up, we should pray, "Lord, help me to be the person you want me to be today. Take away the desires that shouldn't be there and help me be single-minded in my focus and pursuit of you." The words are up there on the screen. I invite you to say those words with me. Lord, help me to be the person you want me to be today. Take away the desires that shouldn't be there and help me be single-minded in my focus and pursuit of you. As we pray this prayer and as we act on it, God will continue to cleanse us from the inside out, transforming us, changing our hearts. Christ works within us when we seek first God's kingdom and strive to do God's will. And as we do this, we begin to sense a higher calling, a calling to simplicity, a calling to faithfulness, a calling to be content. We're going to talk about that next week. A calling to generosity. We begin to look at ways that we can make a difference with our time, with our talent, with our resources. By pursuing good financial practices, we free ourselves from debt, that burden that's on our backs, so that we are able to go out and be in mission to the world. A key to finding financial and spiritual freedom is simplicity, restraint. So over the next few weeks, we will discover that with the help of God, we can simplify our lives and silence those voices that are constantly telling us that we want more. We can live counterculturally by living below instead of above or at our means. We can build into our budgets the need to live generously. By doing this, we will discover the gift and the joy of simplicity. That is what God is calling us to. And I pray that over the next few weeks, we will be open to the Spirit and live into and lean into that abundant life that Jesus can bring.